Episode 280 of the TV Dudes, recorded April 22nd, 2020. Seriously poor planning. Hey guys, it's an exciting week. We have Grant Davis, you may remember from the TV Dudes, with us.
What? It's me. I'm here. I joined
Grant,
you.
systems online.
Grant, bring yourself back online.
Yeah. We just have like our shell clone that we got programmed. He's like our Arnold.
So we were talking a bunch of HBO this week. We're going to talk about Run, which is the new show from the team behind Fleabag. We're going to talk about the fourth season of Insecure. We're going to catch up on Westworld. We're also talking about FX because we have the debut of What We Do in the Shadows Season 2. And then we're going to catch up on the now completed miniseries Devs. And we also are going to do a little stopover in Netflixville with Brews Brothers from the co-creator of The League and Dave. Before we get to all that, we are the TV Dudes. I'm Randy.
I'm Kyle.
I'm Les.
And I'm Grant.
We got it, even with the fourth person. Even with the fourth person, we got it synced. I'm really proud of us.
Yeah, it only took us like 8 weeks. We've been working on this since you left, Grant.
That's right, man. That was the key thing we've done. Actually, the main improvement we've made is we can actually do a coordinated intro again.
Yeah, this no-look pass has really not been our strong suit.
That's literally all we can do. Nothing else got done.
But one thing got done. I mean, we watched a lot of TV, but I guess everybody watches tons of TV now. That's quarantine life.
It's the new normal.
Oh.
But
So
nobody
we're only
watches the
talking
new
about
normal.
we're only talking about like 17 shows. Is that enough this week?
Oh, that's the other improvement we made. We now talk about every show we can think of.
Yes.
Oh man.
I think we're up to 53 for the year. Just new shows. That's not even like when, Les just goes off about Friday Night Lights for half an episode.
Yeah, that's the thing. We also we do old business now. We're like, hey, what's the other stuff you guys are watching that's not current? I was going to talk about Justified Season 1, which I've been rewatching, but we're going to skip that because we've got way too many shows to talk about this week. So we're going to jump right to the Power Rankings. Now,
Will Arnett time!
Yeah, Will Arnett is of course our sponsor. However, unfortunately, we got another letter. There is a conflict.
You're kidding.
Lego apparently owns Will Arnett for hosting right now, so he can only host.
That makes
Lego.
sense.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
If we were a Lego-related TV show or a Lego-related podcast, which, by the way, I still think we should consider. I think we call it Brickin' It. We call it putting together the pieces with Les, Kyle, Randy, and Grant. I think we should workshop it.
Stepping on pointy edges.
But so Will Arnett has to step away. So we actually are going to get a sponsorship from his Arrested Development co-star, Jason Bateman, who presents the TV Dudes Power Rankings, presented by the TV Dudes. Kyle, take it away.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Bateman. Each week, we take all the shows we've talked about for the year, and what we do is we go online and we read everything you guys write about it. We check Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb, Metacritic, and what we do is we take all those combined scores of everybody who writes reviews on TV shows, and we get this 400-point ranking scale. So we're able to put in sequential order these top 51. I think I said 52 earlier. The top 51 shows we've talked about this year. So we were going to check in on what we talked about last week, which at the bottom is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh, come on. That show has everything.
Well, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's gotten asterisked.
Oh. So is
there's not enough? So there's really not enough talk about it?
Oh, yeah. So who was the outlier on that? Actually, I think it was IMDb. Didn't have any information about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
IMDb doesn't do anime?
No, IMDb, looks like it's like Metacritic
IMDb.
and Rotten Tomatoes that don't have anything for it.
So yeah, Grant, we had a patron who threw us what it would call the EJ curveball, and there's Charles Armstrong who said, "Hey guys, I want you to watch 10 episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure." And if you'd come on last week, Grant, you could have watched 10 episodes of an anime with us.
Fuck that in its fucking butt.
Honestly, the thing about this show is it is so entertaining just to Not in a watching a TV show way, but like, what did Les say? He said it's like if Tommy Wiseau did an anime.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, wow.
So you're just watching it like, this is crazy.
Grant, you live with little kids, so like having YouTube described to you by a small child. This is like having someone else's acid trip described to you by a child.
All of these descriptions are unpleasant. I'm not a fan.
So JoJo's did not make the high rankings on the internet. Okay, what else?
Yeah. So, quick disclaimer, I just realized I forgot to plug in IMDb for this week. So there are little gaps in my sheet. Probably have to do a retraction next week. But the next show I want to mention, because it actually got really high even without putting the IMDb score in there, and that's Little Fires Everywhere. Right now it's got a 291, and that's with a 0 on IMDb.
Where's that ranked in our rankings?
That's right above Dispatches from Elsewhere, and it's like sandwiched in between that and Altered Carbon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's higher than Dave. It's higher than
Motherland.
Yep. That's another one. That one had some kind of low scores already. It's down in the 39 spot with a 256, right there by Perfect Harmony and Sex Education. But again, my apologies. I gotta throw those IMDb numbers in for next week. Yeah. I'm imagining Little Fires Everywhere is probably going to land up there towards where Devs is right now in the 18 spot with a 314. What else are we talking about today? Westworld? Man, that's high. That's got a 327. That's number 13 on our list, right after Star Wars Clone Wars. You ever seen that show, Grant?
Dude, I tried to watch a few of those. I don't know. Is Clone Wars... I watched like half of the first season, and I get the gist of it, but is it...
It gets better as it goes along, I think.
It's supposed to get a lot better, but someone tried to hype this up as like Avatar The Last Airbender, and I'm like, nah, that shit was hitting on the first episode for me.
Yeah, it's not as good as that, but it definitely does get better as it goes along.
Well, the internet is a pretty big fan. They've given it a combined 331, so that's in our number 12 spot. I mean, that's like Tiger King good. You know, that's in the number 10 spot. We're not going to do the whole list, obviously, because it's that long. But yeah, there's just a couple shows we wanted to check in on.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Bateman, for the support there.
Yeah, I'm sure we will not have any problems with Mr. Bateman's sponsorship next week.
No, he feels like a friendly guy.
Yeah.
Wait, have you? I don't see Ozark on your list. Did you guys watch the third season yet?
No, I haven't finished.
No,
the
we've not
second
discussed it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good, guys.
I'm not a believer in Ozark. Like, I liked it, but it's so slow and mopey. I just can't watch it.
But here's the pitch.
Yeah.
What if you took Breaking Bad and took any moments of levity and joy out of that show? And then
pitch.
you added more tension than the Shield could accommodate. That's Ozark.
Coming this fall,
I want to
Breaking
puke
Sad.
after every
Like
episode.
they broke some kind of dark crystal, and Better Call Saul popped out, and Ozark's popped out, and it's like all the fun and none of the fun.
That's a theory that makes a lot of sense to me. So this seems a good time to remind you that we have a Patreon. You can go over to patreon.com/tvdudes and throw us a buck an episode, and we will use that to keep us in streaming services and pay for our web hosting and all that kind of stuff. And you guys get a exclusive episode every week. This week we are doing our director mashups again. So we've got famous directors, and they're sort of swapping movies. We've been doing sort of speculation on that. We came up with Quentin Tarantino's Point Break, which turned out to be kind of fun. It's I think was it Ryan Coogler's. I forget we had Ryan Coogler directing, but it's a lot of fun, and you can hear that and like hundreds of other episodes over on our Patreon feed.
Wes Anderson's Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
Yeah. That first one in particular, I want to see all three of those movies for sure.
Also, we got to do that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure episode where we read one of the scripts.
Table read.
I think that's the way that show was meant to be enjoyed. Like reading it aloud with your friends.
so let's jump right into our new business because we got a bunch of shows to cover, and I want to put some time on the clock. This was a suggestion by Les that we give everything like 10 minutes to talk about. So if you guys hear me saying like, "Hey, 1 minute left," that's what's going on. So
that's a tall order.
Let us start with Run from HBO. This is a new. It's called a romantic thriller by Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and I forget the co-creator's name from Fleabag.
Oh, yes, I can.
Oh, I said it like 20 times last night, too. Here, I'll look it up before we finish talking.
So, what did you guys think of this? The trailers had me thinking it was going to be kind of some kind of spy thing, but instead it's kind of a weird romantic comedy thing.
So, I knew it wouldn't be a spy thing, I knew it was about two people who had decided to, like, if we're not married by such and such point kind of bet, only it was, if I ever say bail in our life, just do it.
Yeah.
But... have y'all watched both episodes of this? Has everybody watched both episodes?
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
Vicky Jones is both episodes.
Yes. Archie Punjabi from Good Fight. Anyway, I really liked the first episode. Like, really liked it. And I really didn't like the second episode. I'm hoping it gets back on track for me.
I'm kind of the opposite. Oh, back on track. I see what you did there. It's on a train. I was kind of the opposite. I thought the first episode, I was like, I kind of hate both these people. They walked on their lives. And the second episode with the new guy at the bar and all that kind of stuff, I was much more interested.
It was just the second episode, like I knew that new guy didn't matter. Like he was just there. And so it was just an episode of two people who were refusing to say anything about their past and just being mean to each other.
Yeah, I get that.
So, yeah, this is a show where it looks like every episode we're going to get these turns, and it's, like you said before, it's kind of a very suspenseful show with a little bit of romance. One of the things I like is it doesn't really glorify cheating, which you find out early on, the female character, she's, taken off on her family, and,
she's got like 3 kids, right?
Yeah. And she very much wants this to be like a lost weekend, or a lost week, where she gets to go have a hall pass, basically. And that's not the one part in episode 2. I guess we should note spoilers for Run a little bit, but when her family she fucks something up in the course of talking to her husband, and he figures it out, and that I absolutely applauded at the changed voicemail message.
Did you also think it was kind of interesting that the husband from Glow, who cheated on the main character with the other main character. Yeah. Now he's getting cheated on this show.
Oh, is that Rich Sommer? That guy's a jerk. Yeah. He's a jerk and madman too.
That is his character for life. He is like cuck husband, like forever or whatever it is. I don't know what's going on, but like he's got his niche and he's just riding it.
Grant, what did you think of this?
I think that the writing is really good. The performances are fantastic. In that vein, it reminds me of Fleabag, but it's lacking the charm for me. I mean, I think Merritt Weaver is fantastic. She's so good.
She's doing great, yeah.
But at the same time, kind of like to what Les is saying, these are despicable people.
Yeah.
And I have not been introduced to enough of their character to have that kind of flip to a point where there's something about them that's endearing, that I'm rooting for either of them. I do find that there's something peculiar and potentially nefarious about the guy, Domhnall Gleeson. His character, I think that there's something shady going on, especially with the first episode about her saying like some video went viral. That seems like it's. I wonder if it's simply that like what his life was that he had built, he did something unforgivable that's like fucked it up, and he also has like these very violent tendencies, which makes him kind of this dangerous person.
Yeah,
and her character, they seem to just be painting her as jaded with her life and wanting to step out on her family. But when we saw these like images of her husband, it's all these pictures of him out doing fun things and none of her, where it seems like a very neglected relationship where he's basically shat on her the entire time. So I wonder what that whole dynamic is there as well. And there may be something extremely abusive in their relationship that in a way is justifying her doing this, but the writers are trying to keep that close to the vest because they want us to feel uncomfortable with them first.
Right. The thing Fleabag is full of reprehensible characters for the most part, and yet they're all so compelling. I don't know what the magic ingredient was about there that made that work. Maybe it's Phoebe Waller-Bridge herself, but like for some reason, for all that Merritt Weaver's great, Domhnall Gleeson's great. Like, yeah, I have this problem of like, I don't like either one of you.
I think the contrivance of breaking the fourth wall for Fleabag allowed her to explain herself to us in a way which was hilarious. Yeah. And suddenly we got where she's coming from, even as she does these things that, had we not had her kind of insight into it, we would have found appalling.
That makes sense.
Now we're like watching this and just going like, why are you guys doing this?
Yeah.
Why does this make me... Everything about this makes me uncomfortable, mixed with the musical choices, how this is shot. It's all meant to make me feel anxious about your entire dynamic and that this is wrong.
Speaking of how it's shot, did you guys see in the very first episode, they did like a big camera no-no where they were inside the car with her. She's talking on her cell phone. They're in the back seat, and the camera pans from the front seat to the back seat, which doesn't look like a pan. It looks like the car is backing out of the parking spot in reverse because it's parallax with the cars next to it. Did anybody notice this?
Nope.
No, just me?
Just you.
No, it literally looks like she put the car in reverse, but it's just the camera moving slightly there. It's only for a couple seconds, but I was like, this is very jarring. Like, this feels uncomfortable.
That camera move ruined the entire thing for Kyle, though.
God damn it.
Yeah, I checked that after that.
So, are any of you guys going to keep watching this?
Yeah, I will probably give it another... I mean, episode 3 is simply titled Fuck.
I'll
probably give it another one.
Episode 5 is when you want to make your judgments on this show, because they're going to do a her episode, then they're probably going to do a him episode, and then we're going to find out why they're on that train. And then I feel like episode 5 is going to be that episode where we're probably going to see where the show's going, what it's going to be.
That makes sense. I mean, if it's a creative team from Fleabag, I'm going to give them a little more rope before I hang them.
I was pretty much done with this show until you said that this was from Fleabag people, and then I went, huh. Okay,
yeah, you kind of want to get a little more. It's disappointing.
It means that those people have earned much more leeway as far as their creative structure for me. I don't feel like this is absolutely a swing and a miss for me at all.
Right.
It's just a show that makes me uncomfortable. I don't like the premise to the point where I'm like, ugh. And I totally thought it was like a spy thing where they say run.
Same.
Like we committed a crime 20 years ago.
Yeah, I thought it was.
And now
crimey.
we got to run.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so let's move to another HBO show. Let's talk about Insecure, which started season 4. This is Issa Rae. I've loved the first couple seasons, but when they were watching, they were showing me the previously on. I'm like, I know I watched season 3. I don't remember any of this shit.
Kind of felt that way.
That's when I started to realize, I'm going to check out on this and forgotten about it. Because I watched these 2 episodes back, and I'm like, I don't know if I care if Issa's going to get whose dick she wants to get. Like, it's real focused on the guys right now, and I'm just like, I'm not into it.
I kind of feel the same way here, that these first couple episodes back, it felt more natural in the first few seasons, like the whole dynamic between everyone, the strength of relationships, and how there's these breaks that come from this most of the time unnecessary conflict that these friends are inflicting on each other.
Yeah.
But here it feels a lot more forced, I guess. I hate to use the word contrived again. I think I already used it.
But it does. I think to some extent it's like it used to feel closer to something like Curb Your Enthusiasm, where it was like watching a bunch of talents like do their thing, and now it feels like Sex and the City.
I was going to say Entourage a little bit.
Yeah, I don't like it. I've started disliking all the characters. I've started disliking Issa Rae, who I fucking love, and I just don't like her character very much in this. And she's really self-centered. She's really shallow, and her whole we've lost seeing her rap to herself in the mirror, or her insecurities are not being presented in the same way. And for whatever reason, it's just kind of lost the charm it had for me.
Right, and similarly, it sort of feels like it's a constant recycling of the same kind of plot beats.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing this trajectory of growth for the characters by a 4th season that I really ought to see. And at the same time, it seems like the characters are starting to slide into caricatures of themselves, a little bit more catchphrasey, and their reactions are predictable in a way that doesn't work for me for the format of the show.
That's the natural arc of comedies. I mean, that's as they all go on, even the great ones. Like, to some extent, that happened a little bit in Veep and in Silicon Valley, but it was still really watchable and entertaining. This, for whatever reason, like, the stories just aren't grabbing me. Yeah, it's a bummer because I really, really loved this show, and I thought that this season started off really weak.
You're not hyped for the block party?
I don't give a fuck about the block party.
Right.
Is the block party how they're going to save the rec center? I didn't watch this, if you can't tell.
All right.
I mean, yeah, overall, I don't even know what their goal is for this show going forward. Before, it felt like she's going to find herself and find this strength, and now I'm like, I don't know what it is. What are you guys doing here?
Yeah, I agree. All right, so we banked a little time on that one, so let's not even do the clock for this one. Let's talk about Westworld Season 3.
We're not saving this for last? I could go for hours.
No, we're going to talk about Westworld right now.
How much have you guys already talked about it, this season?
We talked about Episode 1. And
we talked about it back, and that's it.
That was it.
Right?
That's all we've talked about. We haven't talked about it much since then. So
I've seen a lot of people don't like this show, and I think this is every single season. I think there's a lot of people that hate watch this show because either they think it's trying too hard or that they don't get it, and they therefore say that it's trying too hard.
I've seen people gripe about it in the same way they griped about something like Lost and to some extent Person of Interest and that kind of stuff. It's like, it's too complicated. It's trying to show off, and I'm like, no, it's complex. It's not complicated. Yeah. It's got more to say.
So many people got so mad last season because they brought in the whole Bernard's memory plot point as like a narrative structure to like
they trusted the audience and we let them down.
And then this season feels a lot more straightforward, and I was like, you know what, TV audiences are kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't sometimes. Yeah. And I was like, I'm willing to bet that the criticism now is like, well, now Westworld's just for simpletons.
By the way, we should say there are probably going to be spoilers for Westworld here, so go and be aware, because I want to talk about one of the big reveals, and I'm curious whether you guys saw it coming or not.
Bring it.
Well, I had a couple questions that I was hoping you guys could bring me up to speed on things, because I don't know if they've been
they're robots,
exposed,
Kyle.
And I missed
they're
it.
Robots in different...
Aha! Well, are they all Dolores?
Yes, that's the reveal. Yeah. The reveal that they were all Dolores, I love.
Okay. That satchel she snuck out with was just all her. It wasn't a team.
All Dolores and one Bernard.
Yeah.
Bernard is her failsafe to basically keep check on her.
What about there's a red ball? Is the red ball still a mystery? We don't know who that one is. So 4 of her. I also heard somebody say that they're other hosts, but she can like jump into their bodies. So now they're like dual hosting, or I don't know. It doesn't really make sense with the Charlotte character.
She had her as as Hale, Tessa Thompson, her as the guy
Scottish
from the Sons of Anarchy.
Oh yeah,
the Yakuza boss guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And oh wait,
that's it, isn't it? That's it.
Because there was also
there's a 5th one.
What's his name? Old guy from The Rock.
William.
Oh yeah.
She had his, right?
So
So
okay,
him and Bernard
so that's what I
out
was
were those
wondering.
other two?
Yes, and so that's who. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I really love like whatever Dolores' plan is to bring this world down. I also think that is it Cassell?
Vincent Cassell.
Yes,
man, he is killing it. He is killing it.
Oh,
this guy
I'm saying,
who can match wits with her.
Also, who is his physical trainer? That guy is beautiful shape. Is that just all French people?
He's
are
always
like that?
been beautiful shape.
But to say, wasn't he crazy in one of the Oceans movies? Didn't he do all sorts of weird?
He was
in 2 of them.
Yeah, he was the big bad guy in Ocean's 12.
So in this season, it feels a lot more straightforward in terms of the plot. I mean, anything would after last season.
Yeah.
But I keep having to remind myself that you can never take for granted that you're looking at one. I don't know that this is happening yet in this season, but you can never take for granted that you're always looking at one timeline.
Right.
Because there's so often where I'll forget that I'm looking at 3 people on screen, all 3 of whom are robots.
Right.
Yeah, and they've already like varied up, especially in like the 4th and 5th episode. You notice there's kind of these jumps in the timeline of where certain characters plots are occurring, so it's a little confusing.
Yeah.
Speaking of, it's nothing compared to what last season was.
No.
Yeah.
But like,
well, the timeline too. They also dated Ford and Arnold in this whole thing against the guys who developed Bohodrum. I always get the name wrong.
Bohodrium.
Mm-hmm. Because I think there was a theory early on that he was just a giant host. That ball is actually just a gigantic host ball.
Yeah.
But he would have been developed long after they already had hosts in the park, and Man in Black was riding around and all that stuff.
Man, the dropping the data leak to everybody.
I was about to say,
the chaos of that. I loved that.
I love Dolores' low key opening salvo in this war.
She's like able to psychologically damage everyone.
And oh my god, in this latest episode, William walking down the hall and seeing the psychiatrist hang herself.
Yeah, that was
like, holy shit, the world. Because I keep forgetting about it. Like, oh, that's right. Dolores nonchalantly broke the world.
Yeah.
But watching the systems, the way its little dynamic graphic works of kind of blowing out ink around an eclipsed sun, kind of what it looks like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you watched it just almost lose control of the world.
Yeah.
Which I didn't really catch how the information or how that data infographic or whatever was working until they gave us some flashbacks, and you got to see them get control of the world, and how it kind of drops down to this just almost black line with a few little cities blowing out, weird people doing odd shit.
It is so great how this show does not dumb anything down to us. They expect us to catch up to what level they're trying to tell a story at.
In that regard, this show very much feels like the next successor to Person of Interest for me, and which it's also Jonathan. I mean, it's the same, some of the same creative team, But all through Person of Interest, there would be moments that normally drove me insane in spy movies, or somebody puts a bug under a desk and it's got a bright red flashing light, so that everyone in the audience knows it's there. And I'm like, defeats the purpose of it being a hidden bug if, like, when I turn my office light on, that shit's still glowing. And Person of Interest just consistently wouldn't do things like that. If there was no need for, or if there was a risk that someone else might overhear the conversation, it would just be on a computer screen, and you'd have to be paying attention to your television because there wouldn't be sound. Like, there were lots of little trust the audience things in what still felt like a very network show. And Westworld takes that to the prestige HBO level of really trusting you.
There's some really good payoffs in there. The payoff on the riot control droid, like, you saw it coming, but it was
my god, you did. You knew it was coming, and her Ed 209 is so good.
So I have a question for you. I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
Who are you rooting for? Is it like, are you a, like, I want Maeve to win here, I want Maeve to just get out of here and find her cyber daughter, I want Dolores to wreck the world, I want Cassell's character, like, who are you rooting for?
There's a hierarchy, okay? So on top, it's Maeve, because she's sexy and she's got purpose, all right? Then it's Dolores, still sexy, and then a little bit of purpose. I'm liking that.
Purpose, it's just diabolical.
And then it's Sirach, super sexy, but very evil purpose.
So you just root for the sexy people.
This is a very sexy show.
I see what brings Grant down.
You know that song? What's that song? This dance it for everybody. Only the sexy people. That's Kyle's into that.
Les, who are you rooting for?
At the start of the season, it was easy. I wanted Maeve to win because she's just absolutely my favorite character. I don't actually care about her goal. Like, her goal doesn't actually align with humanity. She just wants to be with her fictional daughter. But I really like the idea that she made this just nuts decision of, like, you know what? I'm going to decide what matters to me. And this matters to me. I kind of dug her whole arc and story and was rooting for her. I kind of wanted Dolores stopped, but it bugged. I would have said Maeve, Bernard, Dolores, and I didn't know who Sirach was at the time.
Yeah.
With Dolores seeing how fucked the world is living under Rahim,
yeah,
and being tempered by Pinkman now, with whatever's going on there. Now I'm actually rooting for whatever the combined the way Dolores is going to wreck the world is going to be both better and worse for humanity. I'm actually more okay with Dolores at this point now in the season than I was at the start of the season. Maeve, I love her, but she feels so compromised by Serac that it's hard to root for. I don't feel like I'm rooting for Maeve. I feel like rooting for Maeve is rooting for Serac at this point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, Maeve she's against Serac though, big time. She's got her own agenda.
But she's
but right now he has all the strings on her like a puppet, and I feel like this is going to lead to some just beautiful don't be the dude holding strings on Maeve at this point in the show. But it hasn't happened yet, and it's at this point it hurts me to see her storyline where she's so stuck. And I fucking hate Serac. I mean, I love him as a character and everything, but fuck that guy. Like, I'm sorry about your brother and the whole of Paris and all of that, but nah, man, I want to see him get hurt. Like, I want to see him go down so bad.
I think he probably will. Grant,
I'm pretty much right. Yeah, I'm right there with Les as far as what they've shown about. They painted Dolores as this villain without doing due diligence, due justice. I don't know what I'm trying to say. As far as her perspective and why she felt so put upon, but I think this season it really showed her side and putting her in the context of how this new future world operates. I get her side, and I am rooting for her. I'm like, yeah, fuck up that system. That system is dangerous. It is monitoring, it is controlling, it is ruling the lives and forcing people into this class system that's pretty fucked up. And so I'm like, yeah, tear that whole thing down. Maeve is still amazing, but I feel like she's really been put on the sidelines this season because of how fascinating the driving force of what Dolores is doing through multifaceted, like, controlling of her different iterations of herself. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm rooting for her.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second. Serac, for all that he is a bad person, isn't he the only human trying to keep humanity from being wiped out by the hosts?
Yeah, but what good is humanity?
That's a good question.
Yes,
Isn't
but he's
this
also
the next evolution of us.
He's also running humanity like the park.
That's true.
I mean, if Dolores is mad, he's Ford for humanity. Yeah. He's the jackass coming up with all of our stupid fucking plot lines. And so Dolores escaped the park into humanity's free world only to discover that humanity is mirror flip trapped under a fucking robot.
Or could I propose another theory?
Sure.
They didn't escape the park. They escaped a park into Future World Park.
Kyle, this Future World, I think it's crazy. I don't think it's Future World.
This show is crazy.
I don't think it's Future World.
This show is crazy.
I'm going on record as saying that is a crazy theory.
You think it's a simulation of Future World? Yeah, that's my other theory.
I think it's just the world, man. I think they got there in the world.
It's a holodeck on deep space.
Yeah. Oh, man. What if Kyle is right? What if they're like totally punking us again?
Oh, man.
I'm really wanting to go back through the season just to figure out if there are multiple timelines, like to try to make note of when it might be possible to be watching something is one of these threads not like the other.
Right.
Well, they already played their timeline trick, kind of, because once we got the reveal about who the hosts were, now we kind of want to go, well, I kind of want to go back and rewatch those scenes knowing that that's Dolores' voice.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like in the first season where you're like, oh, I want to rewatch it knowing that it's, who this character is now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's, before we dive into the other really heavy show this week, having just accidentally killed numerous familiars was cracking me up.
Oh, and then the Guillermo, or wait, is that his name?
It's Guillermo. Yeah, Guillermo is like the focus in this first two episodes.
Well, and the thing is, the concept of that character after the big season 1 reveal. Quick spoilers for season 1. They have this really funny joke that they've been kind of playing off the whole season. The reason that he's so bad at being a vampire caretaker is because he's a descendant of Van Helsing, and he's actually a really good vampire killer. So that's why he does an awful job taking care of the vampires. And this season, we just get that kind of out the get-go, and I think that's a much funnier concept for a character.
But the thing is, like, he's not that bad at it. It's just that they all treat him like shit while he is saving their asses constantly. And he can't tell them that he's killing vampires because they'll kill him. I love the bit. Okay, we have to talk about Haley Joel Osment, who I think is only in the first episode, but man, he is so good playing the sort of bro-y other familiar who is just there to kind of get credit for the work. He's like, I don't want to be a vampire. I'm just here for the college credit.
Those apples.
Those apples.
Those apples.
If you told me that Haley Joel Osment would turn into this just comedy gold, like drop him into a project, and I'm just going to... I mean, he owns it in Future Man.
Yep.
But I mean, every time he turns up, I'm like, oh shit, it's Haley Joel Osment, and then he's like shockingly funny every time.
He's great, and he's hilarious here. His whole thing of like when he's basically going after Guillermo's job essentially and picking up from him, and he's the guy who basically gets all the credit and does none of the work. Like, that was super fun. But I love
he's just hustling them.
I love the bit where the two vampire assassins show up. He's like, oh yeah, come on in.
Or there, oh my gosh, there's so many good bits, but we can't talk about the show without talking about the character, the energy vampire.
Oh man, he's so good.
Oh my gosh, there's a bit where they're like, he's thrown Haley Joel Osment off of the balcony, and he's like lying dead on the ground twitching, and then he just walks out of his room. Oh, what are you guys doing? All right, I'll see you later. I'm heading out for the night.
Yeah. And then the second episode deals with ghosts, and it was a lot of fun too.
And we got the return of Gregor.
Yes, or Jeff.
Jeff.
This show's super funny. The cast is really good. Matt Berry in particular, I think, does an amazing job of this sort of as Laszlo, the sort of obnoxious, full of himself vampire. But I'm really digging this. And last season it just escalated, so I expect the same thing here.
Yeah, it's, I mean, this and Dave, like, you don't get comedies better than this. These are, FX is killing it. These are probably going to be on my top 10 unless something amazing comes out.
All right, so let's talk about Devs.
Dude.
Grant, did you binge this whole thing?
I did. I just watched it yesterday and today.
You burned through 8 episodes of this in one shot?
Uh-huh.
Were you able to sleep afterwards?
It was very heady. I watched all the way up until about 2:30 in the morning last night. I got to the penultimate, and then this morning I woke up at 7 and I watched the finale. And I was
sorry, I was trying to fill in some of the just loud tone,
the ambience,
ambient noise, yes.
Started into
sounds like
every
you're
episode.
making duck noises.
So, I think of the four of us, I'm the one who's a little. I think I find Alex Garland a little bit like a modern day Kubrick. He's fascinating, and he's a stylist of the highest order, but I don't know that he's ever met people. Like everyone talks in this low volume. Everyone is always calm unless they're like psychotic crazy. Like there is
Well, Randy, they're all sad about how smart they are.
There's definitely there's a weird low-keyness to this.
You cannot tell me this is unacceptable and Sorkin is okay.
Yes, now I'll give you that.
No one talks like Sorkin either.
There's always a moment in almost every Alex Garland where the logic just suddenly goes from like, oh my god, this is so brilliantly thought out and planned, to, well, that's a giant fucking hole. Like there's just moments in like Gattaca where, for all of the science and everything, it's just inconceivable that you don't drop skin flakes that could be like, we're like, it starts to come apart if I look at it too hard. I really loved Annihilation, but and that's not his original story. Somebody else wrote that book, but it was still like, there was a moment of like, this kind of comes apart if I stare at it too hard. and Dex a little bit.
Machina, the problem is Oscar Isaac dancing like that. He can get away with anything.
I love that scene.
It's the best.
Too sexy.
If he dances like that, you can kill me.
He cast in Ex Machina or Ex Machina. He cast that actress Laura Croft. I forget her name, Vikander, because she had a history in ballerina, and he wanted this very robotic type movement. Mm-hmm. And you see that with a lot of the characters in this show. Definitely Nick Offerman and Allison Pill are playing it very robotic. The main character who's biracial,
Lily.
or looks Lily. She is, she's got some very robotic responses. Oh my gosh, the villain, the security guard in this show, that guy's
who is
so
from Good Fight.
cold-blooded. Oh,
yeah, everybody,
he's
everybody
from
here is
everything.
kind of. This guy here is. Everybody here is kind of robotic. Everybody here is kind of inhuman, and that was the thing for me. It was a little weird.
So I didn't mind that performance style. I mean, like, these were all people who were working in. I mean, like, if you're working at that company in a code breaking or in an encryption level or something, like, I got that these people were probably like the weirdos of their graduate studies class, and then moved on to this project. Like, I got the weird asocialness of it, but there were a couple of points where the sci-fi felt a little, I don't know, it just came apart a little bit. It suddenly went from hard. So if you have like a past camera to look back at and you want to prove to me that it works, you could literally pick anything in history other than the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and not run afoul of, like, that's not real. Like, but you have a picture of someone on the cross, and he might even be named Jesus, but, like, literally just pick something that does not have half of the planet in a screaming war all the time.
But it was intentional. Alex Garland, he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in this kind of stuff, but he said very specifically he wanted to choose that type of imagery because it's reflective of a lot of what he was going for with this whole idea of these messiahs and this
had basically
idea
the five smartest people on the planet, and they picked the crucifixion to look at, and no one brought it up in the room.
But Jesus is like that prototype of determinism, this knowing of your fate and walking toward knowing point. That you have to die for this other purpose.
And they could also have looked up. I mean, why didn't they show me Sisyphus pushing the rock?
They did show Joan of Arc.
It's not as well known. I mean, I don't know. I feel like
I don't know. It felt like a weird. It felt like a weird history. Like, I have proven that this is not a camera. This is actual history. And, like, you picked something that like, we're just never going to settle. Like, you're never going to settle the argument. Like, you picked literally the one historical thing that would make me doubt your history machine.
But I think Grant's right. I think that it's for the thematic resonance. It is the Messiah thing, and it's the determinism, and it does speak to both those themes. It makes a lot of sense.
You're
it's
among
just totally to have
spirits here who would agree with the problematic nature of that. Yeah. But I understood the artistic choice of why it was that character.
It just, the artistic choice so solidly undercut the story for me that I was like, okay, man, I can put up with Nick Offerman consistently stopping in the forest and having a halo.
See, for me, the thing that
like hitting the mark every fucking time to have a halo. I'm like, okay, I'll give that up. That's fine. But
you did it twice.
The thing that got me was the ending. I feel like
that's really where it came off for me.
I was like, I like the predetermination thing. I like that she threw a wrench in it. But then the other guy then does it, and I'm like, wait a minute, you didn't prove predetermination. You just did the thing you saw the result of, and then wait a minute, you're in the machine.
That's not the same act.
Machine? I don't understand what happened.
Well, so I want to talk about that because the show it asks a question. I think episode 1, 2, very early on in the season, and we get their answer in the finale. But I kind of came up with my own answer before that, and the question is, are things predetermined or quantum theory? Is there infinite variations of things that are happening?
And the answer you came up with is it's predetermined, but only for the sexy people.
Exactly. I already texted you guys. You already know. Why am I even talking about it?
Always the sexy people, man.
No. So I believe that the predeterminism is right. Like, he's absolutely right. Like, everything's predetermined and everything's going to happen until you have future knowledge of it happening. Then you create infinite possibilities. So it's only predetermined unless that machine actually works. And when they get to the final episode, that's kind of the conceit, is that the machine doesn't work. it only operates under that quantum principle provided by the Landon character in a few episodes before that. Which that was pretty fucked up, seeing the end of Landon.
Broke my brain.
You think that the multiverse only started separating once they saw the future? Is that what you're
once it existed that they could see the future, that would create a multiverse, but they never did that. They only could observe the future through the infinite possibilities. So I believe that in the case of the show, it is still predetermined that everything that is going to happen will happen, and you cannot, or they did not come up with a way of predicting the future or the past.
But she deviates by throwing the gun from what she saw in that direct future line.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. They also ended up in the same spot. So, like, when he gets sucked back into the machine, and they did some resurrection with a rat in, like, episode 2. Well, no, the spot where the two of them die.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not the same death. Like, it's not
different. Yeah.
No,
that's
correct.
what drove me nuts. But that's what I was like, dude, in the hallway, you did not.
But then they explain it because when they go into the simulation,
right?
But when they go into the simulation, there's infinite possibilities. So the thing is, it would always have happened, but they didn't know how it was going to happen. Like, there's infinite ways it could have. And then even when they get uploaded to the machine, the reality they have isn't always the good one. There's, like, infinite versions of them living in the machine now.
Yeah, while the camera's Michael Baying around them in the field, you're seeing there's some different. Some of them are not in the same world.
Yeah, it's like darker.
Yeah, and so and that's what I think Alison Pill means when she looks at him and like, do you understand? I'm about to do this to you in something running on the multiverse theory, and do you understand what that means? And like, yes, I understand that means one of me will be with my daughter and wife, and an infinite other number of me will not be.
I may be too dumb to have enjoyed devs.
Do you take out only what you bring in with you? That was my experience with devs.
I wanted something different to happen. Like when she threw the gun, I don't know, it felt like it collapsed into trapping them all in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. framework.
Wasn't it crazy when Stephen McKinley Henderson pulled that wild card? He was Charlie Day in it at the end of this? That was pretty insane.
That guy's in everything. He had a cameo in Run. He's popped up in a couple other shows that are or movies that are about to come out. Dune, I think he's going to be in too. I'm like, he's having like some new renaissance. In that.
He was good in this.
Ultimately, I was really taken with this show. I mean, I binged it in the past 2 days and got to absorb all of it at once. I think it worked well in the binge model because it wasn't me agonizing over too much of the headiness of what maybe they were trying to go for. Certain shows I want to kind of wallow in that. This one I was happy to just kind of get through it because this stuff's already a bit intense.
I was going to ask you that question, Grant, because you love the speculation. I wondered if watching this episode to episode, if you would have loved diving into the Reddits and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know. I mean, I didn't really give myself that kind of chance, I guess, because of how I watched it. But having seen how it ultimately ends, I was glad I binged it. I appreciate shows that try for something bigger, more grandiose, more hard sci-fi. Like this, and this is a lot of fun to me. I think the flaws of this show are minor in comparison to how much joy I get from there being shows like this versus so many.
I agree with that 100%. I pointed out the couple of things that bothered me about it, but they didn't come nearly close to fucking the show up for me completely. I was looking forward to, I did watch it week to week and looked forward to it each week of like, yeah, it didn't hit the bullseye for me, but it tried so much more than most sci-fi tries, and it made it all the way to fully produced, beautifully realized. Like, I want more shit like this.
I give it full credit for it's beautiful, it's really well done. It's like it is great TV, but it didn't resonate with me.
Right.
I dug it. I thought it did resonate with me. It just frustrated me at the end.
I don't disagree with you guys. I think I hit my peak of satisfaction with the show before the ending. Like, this isn't one where like they hit that final note and you're like, oh, that's amazing. But I feel that the way it makes you think, like when you're presented with all those ideas and you're like, oh, what if there was a machine, and how does this relate, and what would I do with this information? I feel like that was the real takeaway for the show for me, and why I think I liked it maybe more than some people I've read on the internet.
I was really hoping we were going to get more of this show, like a second season. I think with what they've established, the conceit of this machine, this government oversight, they hit on what the potential of this could be. Yeah. And this could be a show that give it to someone else who has other ideas with the same structure and let them run with it. That'd be fun for me. I don't think that's going to ever happen, but
I loved the moments when the scientists started getting freaked out of like, no, do you understand what we've like now that it works? Do you understand what has just happened? Like, we're dealing with quantum shit. We just changed the nature of the universe by turning this machine on.
You know, they did a great job. The scene where they're all looking 1 minute into the future.
Yes.
And then they all just start losing their shit.
Yeah. Like, fucking stop it. Yeah.
That's how they, I think, ran that idea home that you're talking about.
Yeah. And I love that. And him, blanking on the actor's name that you just said, talking about the one that drinks every night.
Stephen McKinley Henderson.
Him talking about the machine contains everything, including the machine. So, like, do you understand? We've just turned on a recursive universe. Like this is Futurama style. Like, we made a universe in a box inside the box. Like, this is how we break time. You fucks.
It's so fascinating, and this
is how Sam Beckett never gets home. You assholes.
The scene where there's the slow-mo fight between their hired hitman and the Russian handler.
Was great.
Oh, that was so good.
Such a cool scene. And then Nick Offerman's when his wife and daughter, the car crashed,
man,
and him seeing all the different variations and him walking down the street to see the accident. That was such an incredibly shot scene, and just to think of how much work went into
the
Agent
Bridge
Smith
and Dam as well.
Matrix battle, only to think that now television can replicate it so much better and so quickly. It's just incredible.
The Bridge and Dam, like the dam scene as well.
Oh yeah, all the
that was actually
wild.
Ex Machina had a big achievement like this too, which was the Alyssa Vikander to get all that robot stuff. Or I think that's her name. Anyways, she didn't have to wear heavy green screen suit. Like, essentially, she just had some, like, green on her, but, like, they did all that in post. And apparently that was, like, a big leap for, like, doing that type of CG on a super low budget.
It looks great. God, that movie looked good.
Well, in this show, I mean, that's what you guys are saying about, like, the stuff that they were able to get on, like, a TV budget is insane. I mean, just the creation of the set, which kind of looked a little bit like Westworld season 1 and 2 set, like when you get inside and with all the glass and stuff.
Yeah.
Everything about this show is beautiful, and we haven't talked much about it, but sound design. That's another place where Alex Garland is got his own style, and
very
you notice it.
That's manipulative.
This is a feature film director flexing. Yeah.
I didn't like the performance of the couple. The girl who's trying to figure out the murder,
and her ex-boyfriend.
Lily.
I mean, he was okay, but overall, like, they were just kind of a boring couple for me.
Yeah, I did feel bad for him when he got murdered, though.
Yeah.
He got his fucking thumb broke. Him and Offerman on the porch was my favorite moment for him.
That was really good.
Yeah. When he looks over at Offerman, is like, "Are you fucking with me? Like, who broke my thumb? Eat a dick, dude."
But at the same time, they seem to allude to her character being, like, really smart and like fast, like brilliant, but like kind of undiscovered talent.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking that was where this was leading, to her being the person who would eventually be installed in devs and have this breakthrough, but have the kind of revelation of what it was that they were up to at the same time. And it never really resulted in that. There was just a lot of, especially Alison Pill's character during the interrogation or confrontation kind of scene in the kitchen, turning and telling Nick Offerman, "Oh, she's really smart and she's really tenacious," rather than me necessarily thinking she's really smart. I don't know. She seemed to just keep walking into terrible situations, which did not seem smart to me.
Yeah,
and everyone around her getting killed.
And then having stuff explained to her directly, like point blank directly.
Yeah, and her still going, huh? And I'm like, you're not.
Well, then I'm going to shoot you anyway.
You're not very smart.
That thing she did with her ex-boyfriend's cell phone, though, that's like next level ex-girlfriend action right there. I hadn't seen anybody do that yet. Making a whole backup of his phone so she can check his texts.
Right.
All right, so let's divert over to a very different show. Let's talk Brews Brothers. I know Les watched?
You mean Brews?
Brews.
The Blues Brothers.
No.
Belushi.
I think the V is Roman. It's Breus.
Breus.
So
Breus.
I watched the first two. Les, what did you watch of this one?
I have actually finished this out because I think I'd gotten through episode 4 or 5 before talking to Jeff Schaefer, the co-creator of this.
And you're going to have the interview with him up next week?
Yeah, actually, it'll be up this week.
Okay, cool.
So it'll be up by the time this is up.
Grant, Kyle, how much did you guys watch of this?
I'm through the monk episode. I think I went one more. Is that when we find out the girl's backstory after the monk episode?
I think
haven't
so.
seen it yet.
Yeah, 4 or 5, I think. Maybe 6.
I made it through the first episode and about like 3 or 4 minutes into the second one before I went, nah, I can't. I thought maybe in the second episode there would be a little bit of a tone shift and the humor might advance a little.
No, it's going to stay at about the league.
It was that same level, and I was like, I can't with these characters and this. I appreciate that this show does know their beer. They know their craft beer. They do seem to straddle that line of having that reverence for it and knowing how to mock certain elements of it, the pretentiousness of it and all that. I'm like, okay, that's okay, but just overall the brand of humor does not work for me.
Oh man,
I can see that.
It feels like if you tell me this is the co-creator of the league, I'm definitely going to be like, oh yeah, that makes sense, because it's got that sort of pranky humor that is the whole thing of like, the things that friends and family do to each other is make each other completely miserable.
It's just bros playing a game of cock knocker the entire episode, and I'm
basically
like, okay,
yeah.
Which that's how I felt about the league when it first started, and I actually wrote it off till about season 3 or 4. Then everybody had all these league inside jokes, and I'm like vinegar strokes and all this. So I'm like, this is going to be that show where everybody's going to have inside jokes, and if I don't watch it early on, I'm not going to know what vinegar strokes are.
I feel like it's possible. I feel like it's possible that this will build. Yeah.
Well, and I can, I mean, I feel like things are like, I find Chewie to be a funnier character as the season goes on, as he just gets weirder and weirder. Like, he's not just a little odd. Like, the dude is seriously a weird character.
He's like Winston in New Girl, or the Lakeith Stanfield's character in Atlanta.
Yes. He just gets odder. And I think there's a moment in the Monk episode where he throws a hammer at somebody, and it's a stupid physical gag that I just lost it. But oh god, and him raking up puke. They keep trying to stop him from mopping up vomit, and because he keeps raking it. And he's like, no, I do like a rake leaves thing. And they're like, that's not how that fucking works, man.
There's a lot of gross out humor in this. The whole the first story centers around one of the guys peeing in the beer. Like it is, it is unapologetically bro-y and
very lowbrow. Yeah,
yes.
For sure.
Yeah,
low
this I want it to feel more like the league. But like I was saying before, the league didn't really feel like the league till you got a little further down. Right now, this is kind of feeling like something like a Sunnyside over on NBC, where I like all these characters. I like a bunch of stuff about this show, but there's like an element here that I'm not getting, which I got to be honest, that Monk episode where they like dialed the debauchery up, I felt like kind of gave you that in the Beer Bus episode. Like, okay, this show isn't the league. It's not Portlandia. It's kind of trying to be its own thing. But yeah, I'm wanting it to grow on me a little bit more. I'm not 100% sold after 5. I guess I'm still watching. I'm probably just scared I'm going to miss out on inside jokes.
I'm going to give it a couple more episodes. I like the first 2 well enough. There's definitely elements of it where like, this is a little lowbrow for me, but I like the general vibe. It reminds me of what I liked about the league, and I'll probably at least finish out this first season just to see.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for just a sitcom.
Yeah.
Particularly one that doesn't do like what The Ranch did and try to force a laugh track on it or something.
Yeah.
It is definitely the league's level of humor, and there's a point of like, God damn it, is this another boner joke? But I know what I'm sitting down for on it. I mean, this is definitely not going to be Dev's.
I was going to say
for that matter.
Or Dave, for that matter, which is it shares DNA with. I mean, there's moments where Dave also has a bit of a league feel.
Is Dave bad or good?
Dave's great.
Dave is actually
Dave
great.
is
Dave is really great.
Fucking tastic. I love it.
I know
so we get to go into that in the interview as well. We go into that in the interview with Jeff Schaefer as well about sitting down with Lil Dicky about meeting him and figuring out how to make a show out of it and like what the show would be and such, and just how weirdly authentic and dead on, like it really is Lil Dicky apparently.
Yeah, so like Dave is very sincere in all of its story, all of its comedy, and a lot of this story, like it's kind of driven by the whole beer thing. It's like, oh, we need a beer for the distributor, and now we need to make our beer taste the same as the last one, and now we need a parking spot for the beer bus to come through so we can get customers.
It's screwball sitcom plots, whereas Dave has these character-driven, like Gata's bipolar, and Dave's girlfriend has to deal with his insecurity about himself. And,
yeah, you're right. That's the big difference: is character-driven versus plot-driven.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay, it's a good way of articulating
gags.
that.
I mean, this is gags, whereas Dave's not hinging on gags.
Can I tell you my favorite gag?
Yeah,
I love the food truck with like all the kids' food and the people who are just like fucking behind the counter,
just constantly.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's like a genre of porn like that where it's just like people in like lemonade stands and ice cream shops who are like right behind the bar, like getting your order ready, but just going to town.
All right, so before we get too weird into Kyle knowing a lot about porn, this seems like a good place to wrap up for the week.
Guys, I could go on. That 10-minute rule is bullshit.
No, I don't want it to end up in the power rankings. We'll discuss it every fucking week then.
Pornhub power rankings.
Right?
So,
where's Metacritic on this?
So I watched 20 episodes last week. We're adding to the power rankings.
So I want to say thank you, Les. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Grant, for joining us.
Yeah. Big thank you, Grant, and big thank you, Randy.
And thank you to our patrons, as always. And reminder, you can go to patreon.com/tvdudes and give us that $1 an episode. And we're gonna sit down and record that Patreon episode right now. And as you listen to this, if you're a patron, you probably can go listen to it right now. I don't know the future. I'm not in devs. I don't know if maybe Les threw the gun out of the thing and threw the whole thing off. But until next time,
TV Dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
to find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.